Create that life, legacy designers. Amber Prosia here. Welcome to episode number 15 of the Parenting Biz Podcast, coming to you every single Monday. Now let's chat with this week's featured guest, Leanne Wood. Leanne, are you ready to excite us on your journey of how you create the life you've always wanted for yourself and your family?
I'm totally excited, Amber. Thank you for having me on.
You're most welcome. I'm so stoked. Leanne grew up in the country, northern New South Wales. After a successful career, the global financial crisis hit and she lost everything financially. In 2012, she was a stay-at-home mom of a 4-year-old boy, had very complicated miscarriage, and spent 2 weeks in the hospital. In September 2012, she was introduced to Isagenix's nutritional cleanse program to help her regain her health. She loved the products and was so inspired by her results that she decided to start sharing with others and started her business with Isagenix. Within 21 months, she earned her first $1 million of profit within the company. Now, within just over 5 years, she has earned an excessive of $3.2 million and created a team of over 38,000 people and became one of the top leaders in Isagenix globally. She attributes her success to truly leading from the heart with an intent to make a difference in the lives of others, as well as a ridiculous work ethic and her belief in herself and her team. She's a very passionate person and puts her heart into everything she does. She's a certified meditation instructor through One World Academy from India. She's a certified master practitioner of matrix therapies. She's a certified master practitioner of NLP and an incredible life coach. In 2015, she made the decision to join Tony Robbins' Platinum Partners program, which is an elite membership group who travel the world with Tony for 1 year, immersing themselves into his programs. One of her passions is healthy eating, and she loves being in the kitchen, cooking delicious, nutritious meals or prepping raw food delights. She loves entertaining and spending time with friends. In her downtime, you can usually find her in the kitchen, dancing to her favorite music while cooking up a storm. She's passionate about adventure activities, travel, helping people grow and transform, and to get what they truly want out of life, to create that life that truly inspires them. She has traveled the world extensively, experiencing new cultures and studying, speaking, and training in the field of personal development. Her greatest joy is being a mom of 10-year-old son, Sammy, who she loves to take traveling with her often. More than anything in life, she just loves to be happy. Leanne, please take a minute to fill in any gaps from that intro and give us a little glimpse of your own personal life.
Thank you so much, Amber. That was really lovely. I really appreciate all of that. Yeah, look, I think the only gaps to fill in there is that I started my personal development journey with Tony Robbins probably back around 1996, 1997. And I listened to one of his, I saw an infomercial on TV one day at probably around 4:00 in the morning when I was having trouble sleeping. And I saw this cheesy infomercial of Tony Robbins and selling his personal power 30-day program. And that was an audio program. And I thought to myself, wow, this, there's something about this, as cheesy as it looks, there's something about this man and something about what he's offering that I just need to know more. So I bought his 30-day personal power program, and it absolutely transformed my life in so many ways. And so it took me then until 2005 to attend my first live event with Tony Robbins, which was his Unleash the Power event. Unleash the Power Within event in Sydney. And from there, I have just been attending his events every year. And really, for me, I feel that personal development is such a core part of success for anyone. And, to the degree that you develop yourself and grow yourself is to the degree that you'll have success in life. That's my belief. And I'm very grateful for being able to be in the space with Tony over so many years and so many other great leaders who have really been wonderful in teaching me a lot within the personal development area.
You're incredible, Leanne. Thank you so much for being on the show with us today. I am super stoked to have you here. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Amber.
You're most welcome. So So, Leanne, as you are aware, our listeners are parents or parents-to-be that realize ownership is key to not only to our parenting or business, but in life in general. And along that parenting journey, we can lose sight of that. However, if we focus on life as a game or an activity or a sport, not only can we learn to let go easier, but we can also gain strength from our mistakes and design our core focus to be one of laughter, joy, and most importantly, having fun, just like a 5-year-old kid in the sandbox. So this week, our entire interview will be jumping into an extremist lifestyle with Leanne leading the way. Welcome to our adrenaline high called Take a Chance, Life is Meant to be Fun. Now, we're all aware this is just an analogy and we can create and design our lives any way we want. Leanne, this was your chosen activity, Extreme Adventures. So let's go through your daily activities and how you make it work with your life and expertise. So let's start with open-mindedness, because extreme adventure isn't for everyone. Now, however, we can truly teach us many things about life and especially ourselves if we do go ahead with an extreme adventure, whatever that might be. So I wanted to ask, Leanne, what was your first extreme adventure and how did you choose it?
Oh, wow. That's a good question, Amber. Let me think about that. I'm not sure what my first extreme adventure was. I think it's been something that's been in my blood since I was a little girl. You know, when I was growing up, it's so interesting because my mum would send me to school every day looking like this beautiful little pretty girl, with my pigtails all tied neatly with ribbons and my socks pulled up. And she always taught me to be a real lady. But what I would do is I would get to school, or after school I'd be climbing trees and I'd be jumping off things, and I was a real tomboy. So my dad used to call me Scruffy. So because I was this little girl that was always so neat, but then became so scruffy because I was always out there having adventures. And so I think anything that I did that was extreme probably started from when I was very young, and it was always, climbing up the tallest trees or jumping off things that I shouldn't have been jumping off. And then as I've gone through my years, it's evolved into, things like skydiving and jumping off buildings and, zip lining off really, on really high zip lines, and doing anything I can do that gives me that rush of adrenaline, which I really love, because I just love putting myself in a place of fear where I know that I'm going to be safe, but it's the fear of the fear of the risk, and it's the fear of doing something that is really quite scary. And then when I get to the other side, it's feeling that sense of accomplishment and the exhilaration when I'm going through it, and that sense of freedom to know that I can overcome my own fears and that I can achieve anything that I put my mind to. So that's what I love so much about adventure sports and adrenaline.
I completely relate to all of that. I was definitely a tomboy as well. So I completely get all of that. And now I like to say, I grew up as a tomboy, and then I stepped up my game to now I'm a boys girl. And I'm working eventually to become a lady, but I will get there sometime.
Thanks. I feel like I'm a good mix of both, Amber. I feel like I have the definitely the ladylike side of me very much. I've learned that from my mum, but then I also have that real adventure seeker in me as well.
Yeah, I'll learn from you, Leanne. So thank you so much. And Mick would appreciate that too, because he's definitely been working on me. So adventure is a lot like business, and it can definitely be an extreme, or we can run it in our comfort zones. Because, sometimes the extreme adventures, it just gets too nervous or anxiety for many listeners, and or the other side where they look for that thrill. They seek for it, like you mentioned. How did you incorporate your passionate, open-minded, can-do attitude into Isogenics or any other business endeavors that you're on?
Well, I think with adventure, for me, one of the things I love about adventure is it's building a muscle. And the more that we put ourselves outside of our comfort zone, the more that our comfort zone grows. And what I've noticed in the recent years is that when I'm about to jump off a building or I'm about to do an extreme sport, I notice that I don't have the fear there as much as I would have many years ago. In fact, I feel quite calm and more excited than anything else. And so taking that into business, one of the reasons that I love doing the adventure activities is because it helps me to build a muscle across every area of my life. So I know when fear comes up that, oh, can I do this? Will I be good at it? That I know how to face fear head on. I know how to overcome fear. I know how to meet fear and say, no, I'm the master of this. You're not going to control me. I'm the master of this. And I know how to step into fear and go past that. And I think the biggest thing that holds us back from success in any business is our mindset, and it's our lack of belief in ourselves, thinking that, are we worthy enough? Is this something that I'm capable of doing? And really, we can all do whatever we want to achieve. It's just a matter of finding the resources that we need and stepping up and taking the action and not letting the fear overcome us, and just having that belief in ourselves that we can absolutely do whatever we put our mind to.
Absolutely. I love it. And fear, moving into that next element, because I know you've touched on it a couple of times now, that could be, there's a lot of acronyms for fear. It could be face everything and run, false evidence appearing real. But you did talk about that how to overcome it. Do you remember, because again, just maybe for some listeners that might be still fearful or not sure how to overcome it, was there any epiphany or a point in your life where you actually were taught or learned what the difference between fear and, say, excitement was, and how to actually control that mindset and make that decision to then overcome that next situation where then you're not fearful?
That's a good question. Again, I don't know that there was any particular incident that occurred. I think it was just more over time. I loved the feeling of having the fear initially, and like, for example, in an adventure activity, I liked the feeling of the fear in the beginning, and then stepping into it and feeling the sense of freedom that it doesn't control me. I think, well, you're going to have to edit this one, Amber. I'm sorry.
No, we won't, Leanne. I think it's great. You know what it could be, because it's great that you're focusing your energy on that sense of accomplishment, that freedom, the other side, rather than getting caught up and letting that, or at least it sounds like, and you're not letting that roll with you and just panic and start getting, oh my gosh, I'm sweating, or like I can feel my stomach is in my throat. You're not actually focusing on that. You're kind of like, no, this is the sensation and the freedom on the other side of what this is going to do for you personally, and the mindset of focusing on that rather than getting caught up into the nitpicks of what might be actually happening at the moment. Is that?
Yes. Look, I think there hasn't been any specific incident that has happened that created fear that was a turning point for me in all of this. I think it's really just been my evolution of my own personal development, constantly wanting to step up and become a better person and helping other people become better. And always looking at, where is the edge of my comfort zone? How can I step beyond that? And how I relate that into adventure is, when I do an adventure activity, there's always a point of fear in the beginning, because maybe there's a height involved, or there's a sense that you're not safe, even though you probably are safe. Being in a very controlled activity, even jumping off a building, there's always going to be safety measures in place, but that doesn't take away the fear. And then once you're in that experience, you're moving through the comfort zone in the moment, and it's really exhilarating. And then on the other side is the celebration of that. So for me, as an example, I used to have this terrifying fear of public speaking, and yet it was something that I knew I needed to overcome in order to become successful in my business and to be able to contribute in the way that I want to contribute in my lifetime. And so I remember the first few times that I got on stage and I spoke, you know, my knees were shaking. I couldn't control it. My voice was shaking. My hands were shaking. And, you know, knowing that I had this fear running through my body, in those moments, what I did was I looked back to my adventure activities, and I remembered the feeling of fear that I had going into those adventure activities. And so I could transfer that skill into my business in those type of incidences where I was, say, public speaking for the first time, and just relax into it and embrace it. And that's where I was talking about building that muscle, because the more often that we put ourselves outside of our comfort zone and we face fear head on, it's a muscle that we're building. We're learning how to do it through repetition, and it becomes easier every time. It doesn't mean that the fear is not going to come up, but it means that you can dissolve the fear so much quicker. And it was February a year ago that I got asked by Isagenix to speak on stage in front of 6,000 people. And I remember walking on stage and I had butterflies before I went on for probably about, 10 minutes, half an hour, something like that. And I just applied what I apply to every adventure sport that I do, and really looked at that fear and allowed myself to relax into it, and looked at my outcome, which was to serve all the people in the room. And when I walked on the stage with so much empowerment and confidence and so relaxed. And that is all because of how I've conditioned my mindset in the past through facing fear head on and learning to overcome it.
And I think that you actually nailed on the head that it actually does come back to personal development and growth.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you said, training that muscle and making it stronger and stronger every day and throughout each activity, no matter what it is, through business, public speaking, parenting, and so on and so forth, which is fantastic. Just talking about UPW, because I'm sure also with Tony's stuff as well, it also really helped you develop. And just before we came online, you've gone to 13 UPWs and you've crossed through the fire 13 times. That obviously built a strong muscle of, you can do anything you put your mind to, right? And that probably relates to a lot of this fear muscle building that you don't really feel in an extreme adventure, but you could feel it in other aspects in business. Would you say that to be true?
Absolutely, Amber. Absolutely. I mean, it's not even necessarily, fear doesn't have to come from extreme sports. It can come also just from everyday living, doing things that are uncomfortable to us, stepping up in ways that we're not used to stepping up to, talking to people that we're not used to talking to. And, we can practice building that muscle in any area of our life whenever anxiety comes up, whenever any sort of fear comes up. And, crossing the fire 13 times with Tony Robbins, once you've done it, the first couple of times I remember how scary it was, and then achieving it and celebrating and feeling so empowered. But every time that I've done it since, it's got easier and easier and easier, where now I don't even have to really prepare myself to walk across the fire, because I know how to put myself in that mindset really quickly. And in fact, when I was 6 months pregnant with my little boy, I walked across the fire with him in my tummy, because I wanted to feel how empowered that felt as a pregnant mum, to be able to do that with my little baby, that things like pregnancy or motherhood aren't going to hold me back from anything in my life. I can still be a fantastic mum and be a businesswoman and be successful and do things and achieve. And, it's just a really great thing.
It really is. And I love that you said all of that, because I'm a firm believer of it as well. And that's literally why this podcast came to creation, is because of exactly that. Because we can we don't have to stop our dreams just because we're parents or parents to be,
It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Amber. I really have to say I very much admire what you're doing with this program, and I think it's of great value to your audience out there. So I feel very honored that you've invited me to be part of it today.
Of
So thank you.
course. Oh, thank you so much, Liam. But of course, you were one of the first people on the list because, like I said, you're such an inspiration. So let's move into decisions, because once we've overcome that fear and we make that decision, it's a very similar thing to like you're booking your next adventure. And if you actually tell your friends about it or post it on social media or who wants to come with me, it increases accountability that, okay, now you have to follow through. And
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, how has accountability played out in pursuing these adventures, not only to yourself, but also to your son Sammy? Because he must know that you're a super mom, and or just actually think this is his normal. And I'm a firm believer of what's normal these days anyway, so don't worry about that. But this is what he's growing up to, and this is what he sees all the time, so he won't think anything differently. How has that helped ensure that you've stuck with your decision?
Okay. So I think, sorry, I'm just going back to what your question was, Amber.
No problem.
Sorry, can you just tell me again specifically what the question
Of
was?
course. How has accountability played out in pursuing these adventures to not only
Mm-hmm.
yourself, but also to your son, Sammy?
Yes, okay. So accountability is obviously, really, really important. And I think first and foremost, it's being accountable to yourself. It's being accountable to doing what you say you're going to do and going after your vision. And for me, I'm I'm such a big believer in doing things that support myself to be accountable to myself. So one of those is I have vision boards. I have 3 vision boards, and they're always, where I can see them in my office, and I look at them daily, and I have a particular ritual that I go through every day, which I prime myself. I look at my boards, I say positive incantations out loud. One of my vision boards is based all around my personal life. So it's all to do with who I am, my power virtues, my values that are important to me, how I want to show up. It's all to do with my health, my relationships, my family, my connections spiritually, and my friendships. And then my second vision board is all around my business. So that's my vision, my mission, what I'm here to contribute, any charities that I'm involved in, and just my purpose of being and what I want to add as value to this lifetime while I'm here, to the people around me. And then my third vision board is my bucket list board. So it's pretty much shows the lifestyle that I'm creating, and all the things that I want to do, be, and have in my lifetime. So places I want to visit, travel adventures that I want to have, and maybe homes and cars and things like that. So I have those 3 very distinct vision boards, and I look at them every day, and that helps me to stay accountable to myself, because when I look at those every day, if I'm not doing something that's in alignment with those boards, then I don't feel that I'm being accountable to myself. So that is the starting point for me in keeping myself accountable. And, even with my little boy who's 10, he has a vision board of his own that I helped him make, which has all of his own things that are important to him on there. And, we do our positive incantations, each day. And that just helps me stay accountable to myself and helps me with making decisions in alignment with what my vision for my future is and what I want to contribute.
I love that. And I love that you actually have incorporated that into Sammy's life as well and integrated and actually brought that into his life, and that importance and how you guys prime together. And also, you guys put on some music. And does he say the positive incantations out loud as well, looking at them?
Yeah, he does. Can I share with you the little ritual that I do with him?
Of course, please. We'd love to hear it.
Because I think a lot of your listeners would really get a lot out of this, and it would be a great practice for them. So I have a little bag of ceramic discs, and I bought them at an event, and they're beautiful. They're all handmade, and on one side it has a little picture that's that's glazed, and on the other side it has an I am statement, and it might have I am loving, or I am grateful, I am kind, all those types of things. So every day what I do is I tell Sammy that he has to say 10 I am statements, and he has to repeat each one 10 times over. So it could be I am happy, I am grateful, I am loving, I am giving, whatever it is for him. Then he has to say 3 things that he's grateful for, or 3 things that really were great in the day for him the previous day, because we do this in the morning. Then the bag of discs that I have there, we both go through this ritual, and he has to put his hand in, and he gets to pull out 2 of these little pottery discs, and we say the same thing every day. We say, please universe, give me the one that's right for me today. And then we take it in turns pulling out our 2, and it might say something like, I am at peace, or I am peaceful. So he might pull one out that says that, and then the other one might say I am loving. And so then that's his focus for the day. That's something that he needs to go and focus on for the day. And then I have my 2 that I focus on, and we sit them out for the day. And then in the nighttime before we go to bed, we reflect on them, and I ask him about whether that came up in his day for him, and we just have a little chat about it. And so that's a ritual I like to do with him to help him create empowerment in himself, and to help him have a really positive day, and also to help him direct his focus on something that is going to really create value in his life.
Phenomenal. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm sure all of our listeners got something out of that. I definitely have. So thank you so much. Really appreciate you sharing that.
You're welcome.
So I was just wondering, do you have any tips or tricks that you could share with our listeners, especially when you don't feel like doing something? Like, I know it sounds like you probably always feel like it because you're just positive and happy, and it's great. I love it. You can feel your energy from here. But what if you just don't feel like it, and maybe you're just not having that best day or that best moment or whatever it might be? How do you stick to your commitments?
Well, that's a good one, Amber. I like your question, because I'm just normal like everyone else too, and I have my days where, for whatever reason I'm tired, or I don't feel like doing something. But it's all just about putting yourself in a positive state, and that's one of the most powerful tools that I learned from Tony Robbins, is getting into a powerful state. Because when we aren't feeling great, when we don't want to do something, it's usually because the emotional state that we're in isn't serving us. So the best way that we can change that is look at our physiology, so how we're standing. And usually if you're in a place where you're not happy, or you're not feeling like you want to do something, your whole body energy and physiology is in a downward position. Your shoulders are down, everything's down. So for me, it's about pulling my shoulders back. What I usually do, I've got a rebounder right here behind me in my office. I get on my rebounder and I start rebounding and having a bounce, and that usually brings my energy up quite a lot. And then obviously just what I'm focusing on, when we're not feeling great, it's usually because we're focusing on something that doesn't serve us, like, that I'm tired, or, gosh, I've got a lot to do, I feel overwhelmed. But if you just focus on something that is, more positive, like, oh, I could do this one step, I could do this one thing, and focus on what's going well, then, it makes a big difference. It can really turn things around for us. And then also the other part of putting ourselves in a great state is looking at our language. So how are we speaking, and what words are we using? Are we using negative words that aren't helping us to feel good, or are we using positive words? So I always look at my language and turn my language around from something that might be not serving me to more positive language. And so those 3 things together really help me to change my state and get back on a good track. And of course, when I've got my vision boards in front of me and I'm bouncing on my rebounder, it always gives me some great energy. So movement is a great way of blowing off any negative steam or unwanted energy in the body, and it helps to sort of pick you up and lift you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing that. One more question just in regards for decisions. As a mom, what made you decide to travel and immerse yourself with Tony Robbins' Platinum Partner Program? Because you do travel around the year with Tony all around the world as well for that entire year. How did that go with Sammy? And what was your thoughts on that?
Yeah. No, that was really great. So I decided to do Tony's Platinum Partner Program because back in 2005 was my very first live event with Tony. It was my first time at Unleash the Power Within, which was fantastic, and the Firewalk. And at the end of the event, they promoted their Platinum Partners program, and they talked about having close proximity to Tony and being part of this incredible network of people and this amazing peer group and traveling and immersing in learning and contribution. And I remember back then in 2005, as soon as I'd done the event, I running down to the table and wanting to go and sign up. And I went to sign up and then saw the price tag and thought, oh my goodness, there is no way that I can afford that right now. But one day I'm going to do that. And I put that on my vision board. And that was something that I knew that I wanted to do one day. So instead, I joined up to his Mastery University program, which was a number of other events, and I went and did those. And then I came back year after year and did all of his programs. And honestly, I attribute so much of my success in business to everything I've learned through Tony's programs. And his programs have led me to a number of other phenomenal leaders and trainers who I've learned so much from, which has been just phenomenal. And then when I had my massive success with my Isogenics business, the only event of his that I had not been to was Business Mastery. And so I made the decision to go along to Business Mastery. And when I did, they did another promotion for Platinum Partners Program. And I thought to myself, wow, I'm actually in a position where I can afford this now, and I'm going to do it. So I signed up to do Platinum Partners, and my ex-husband and I share custody of our son 50-50. So traveling and doing Platinum Partners for the year was just amazing because I worked it around, having my son 50% of the time, and then the other part of the time, my ex-husband had him while I was traveling, and we would just really be flexible with our time, and it worked out great. And I often took Sammy on trips with me, and he loves traveling as well. He has a real travel bug, so I love to take him when I can overseas and let him experience different cultures and different people. And I think that's really important to his own growth and development as well. So yeah, I didn't find it a challenge at all. And if for any reason my ex-husband was unavailable, my mum, she was amazing. She was always there to step in and look after him, and he just adores being with his grandma. So he was always happy, and lots of Skype time between us and FaceTime, and it felt like we were together every day anyway.
Beautiful. Oh, that's great to hear. And I love that you didn't, it may have been a hurdle for some, but you made it work. You got around it, which is awesome.
Absolutely. And, the world these days it's such a small place now. I mean, we can chat to people by FaceTime anywhere in the world, and it's amazing what technology is available now. So as long as, as a mum, the most important for me is keeping that connection open with him so that we're always having quality time together, whether it be in person or whether it be over FaceTime. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that up because, yeah, we are so grateful. And, sometimes we take that for granted about technology, but it's definitely not, writing postcards or writing a letter and hoping that it gets there in days or months. So it's definitely something to be grateful for. So let's move into our last element, which is the leap of faith, because one, if not all extreme adventures have an aspect of taking a leap of faith. Skydiving, you sign your life away before even jumping. The rope obstacle courses, you literally have an extremely high pole, which is usually at least 30 feet above ground, where you must jump to catch a rope or a bar or swing that's just floating magically in the air that you have to go and jump from. But what has been one of the biggest life lessons that extreme adventure activities have taught you?
One of the biggest life lessons, probably what I was saying in the beginning, just that, we have the ability to face fear and overcome it. We have the ability to go beyond where we feel our limitations are. We have the ability to push past our comfort zone and achieve things beyond what we feel are our boundaries. And for me, it's really just believing in myself, giving me that personal power, and knowing that I really can achieve whatever I put my mind to and put my passion into. It's something that I can achieve, and going after that, and then helping other people learn that lesson as well, that they really can stretch beyond their comfort zone. And that's where the magic is in life. That's where we really start creating fulfillment in our life, when we start operating outside of our comfort zone.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And do you find, have you done any extreme adventures with Sammy?
He's done zip lining now, which is really great. So that's probably about the only one. I'm going to be taking him on a treetops adventure course very soon, which is like an obstacle course up in the trees, and that includes all sorts of different challenging obstacles that get harder and harder as you go along, and that it's quite high up in the trees. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we're planning to do not too far down the track. But I think he's not as adventurous as I was when I was younger, and so that's something that I'm just trying to build in him at his own pace at the moment.
Absolutely. And it's great that you've actually taken that on board and noticed that as well, and not expect it or push it or anything. You're just letting it grow within him and learning at his own pace.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Really, really important, because everyone's coming from a different level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's awesome. So is there anything else that you'd like to add from today's extreme adventure before we wrap up?
Yeah, look, you know what? I think there's just one thing that I want to say, because I know this is all to do with business and, for parents. I think one of the biggest keys to success in business I've found is really wanting to contribute beyond yourself. I mean, we all have a goal for something that we want to achieve for our own lifestyle, but I think when we can have a why that's not just for us, but a why that's greater than us, and a why for other people, to contribute something of value and really come from a heart space of wanting to do that without getting anything for ourselves, that's when business becomes really successful. And that's what I found, across all my years in business. Anytime that I'm genuinely just wanting to make a difference and contribute, it creates abundance. It all comes back to us. And, for me, my whole journey with Isogenics, as much as in the beginning I was really wanting to create a business that I could run from home and be there with my little boy, I only had a very small goal for myself financially with my home-based business. I really just wanted to replace enough income so that I could be a stay-at-home mum and not have to go back to work. But what happened very quickly is I became very addicted to the feeling of fulfillment when somebody's life was transforming through having a shift in their health, or now starting to create an income for themselves. And I chased that addiction for fulfillment of making a difference with others. And that's where my business really boomed, is that absolute passion for helping others. And, I think when we can really connect with that side of ourselves and we can really tap into that, that's when we realize that that's where the key is to abundance, is helping others and contribution.
Absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned about heart space. Just for our listeners that aren't aware, what do you mean by heart space?
Well, what I mean by that is, my business in Isogenics, it's a network marketing business. And so I'm a distributor of products, which are nutritional cleansing products. They are phenomenal products and they make such a big difference to people's health. And really, for me, my experience of those products initially was what inspired me to then go and share with other people, because I had such a big transformation to my own health. I wanted other people to experience what I had experienced. So when I talk about heart space, there's people out there that will sell products. And when they sell products, it's all about the exchange. It's all about, well, I'm selling you this and I'm going to create income for myself from it. And that's a very self-centric type of business mind, where it's about what you're getting from the clients that you're bringing on board, and it's about yourself and the income that you're creating for yourself. But when you come from that really genuine heart space of actually wanting to contribute, and your business being about doing something that's going to be of value to other people and having that be your driving force, the money just comes in an abundance, because it's like a universal exchange. You're contributing and you're giving value, and you're contributing to the energetic flow of the universe. So the universe wants to give back to you. But if you're taking from the universe, if you're taking in form of, well, I want this income, I want to create this for me, this is all about me, and you're trying to take, then the universe will hold on to things. So it's for me, I see it as whatever we want to contribute energetically is what we'll receive back in abundance. And so when I talk about heart space, for me, I can't do anything in life that I'm not passionate about, that doesn't make me wake up every morning inspired to go and help other people. And that's for me where success comes from.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's amazing, Leanne. And my last question before, I'm sure our listeners are wondering how they can get in touch with you. But I was just wondering, you mentioned about priming today and those activities you do with Sammy every day. Do you have other daily habits that you do to get yourself ready to have that mindset constantly, like how you said, get yourself in state, but that you just have your own rituals that you can't live a day without?
Well, my priming in the morning is really important to me. So doing that, if I go off track and don't do my priming every morning, then I'll notice a difference in my energy. My energy won't be as up. It won't be as passionate. I won't be as motivated to take action. So for me, my ritual every morning, as I was saying before, is getting on my rebounder. I've got, and jumping, I've got this, some music that I listen to that goes for about 45 minutes, and every song in there has a very important anchor for me that I associate to feeling empowered, and I associate to my vision boards. And then, saying incantations out loud, and incantations being really positive affirmations. And I use lots of movements in my hands and say it out loud, and I say it with passion. So that is really important to me, because I'm using all my senses to create a very powerful, positive, empowering foundation for my day. And what that does is it directs your focus for the rest of the day. So that's setting up what I'm going to be focusing on, what I'm going to be seeing in my life, what I'm going to be seeing in my environment, and what my mind is going to be searching out for every day. So I do that. When I'm away traveling, I have my mind movies. So that is basically a little movie that I watch that I've created that has pictures from my vision board and other pictures and positive words in it, and I'll watch that, and it goes for about 7 minutes. and that helps me with staying in a really positive space. Something else that I do is I will meditate. I usually meditate probably about 4 days a week, and I do that early in the mornings, and I love, love, love doing that because it just helps me, being a really busy businesswoman, it helps to keep me grounded. It helps to keep me calm and very centered. So they're the types of things that I do. And then obviously exercise in the form of, yoga or going to the gym, and those types of things are all rituals that are really important to helping you feel great as well.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Leanne, for sharing with us today. You are definitely a force to be reckoned with, and just such, an inner goddess, and just everything else that you do is you can see and hear and feel from your energy, just even through this interview, just how passionate you are and exactly why you are successful. So thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate having you here.
Thanks, Amber. It's been a pleasure. And, I think what you're doing is fantastic. And so I really admire what you've created with this Parenting Biz podcast. And I think it's fantastic. So good luck with that in the future.
Thank you so much. Well, before you go, Leanne, please let our listeners know how can they get in touch with you if they want to hear more about Isagenix, or if they want to work with you or just connect. How can they get in touch with you? And I'll add all the details to the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the best way to connect with me is to send me a private message through Facebook, and I can start a connection process with them that way, and then we can move to phone. If they'd like to talk more in depth, we can do it that way. So that's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me.
Okay, great. Well, I'll definitely add the link in there for Leanne's Facebook, and you guys can send her a private message. But that's it for today's show. So thank you so much, Leanne. You are amazing. Really appreciate you being here. And yeah, we'll wrap it up. So thank you, listeners. Really appreciate you guys all. Hope that you guys got a lot from it. I'm sure you did, because I definitely took a ton of notes. And I'll be re-listening to this episode as well. But yes, thank you so much for listening, guys. If you're new to our channel, you guys can please like, follow, or subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, or I feel like I'm missing one. Did I say YouTube, iTunes? It's all there. There's 5 options, so put all the links down there on our website for you guys. And if you guys got any benefit from it and you think that other people could get some as well, please share it, because, the more we can get out Leanne's message to people, it can help inspire a lot more and empower them. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Thanks, Amber.
No problem.